Today is Tuesday, Parashat Vaetchanan. In the parasha of this week, we'll read the Ten Commandments. This is the second time that they're mentioned in the Torah. The first time was in Parashat Yitro, that told us of the actual revelation on Mount Sinai and the Ten Commandments. Here, in the book of Devarim, when Moshe Rabbeinu repeats the Ten Commandments, as he goes through what happened in the desert, 40 years that they were in the desert, it's a review. So one of the very important aspects that he reviews, he says, this is what happened. We received the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. And he goes through all the Ten Commandments. One of them is observing Shabbat. That's the fourth commandment. In the Parashat Yitro and in the parasha of this week, there are some differences in the wording. In Yitro, at the Revelation, it says, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. Remember the day of Shabbat. Here, in Parashat Vaetchanan, it says, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat. So, Zachor is remember, Shamor is observe, safeguard. Zachor is positive, remember the Shabbat, to do Kiddush, to wear fine clothes, to have very nice, very good meals, remember Shabbat even throughout the week. So you find something that is very tasty, you say, well, I'm going to keep this for Shabbat. You find some very special fruit, you say, this is for Shabbat. So you remember Shabbat to sanctify it. Shamor is refrain from all those things that are forbidden to do on Shabbat. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbat. You're not allowed to do any one of the 39 melachot, the 39 activities that are forbidden on Shabbat. Not allowed to build a house, let's say, you cannot paint. All these things are Shamor. Zachor is remember. Our sages say that both were said at the same time by Hashem. Hashem, something that a person cannot do, to have two words that are different being said simultaneously. But Hashem said Zachor and Shamor b'dibur echad, in one way, one word expressed and said both Zachor and Shamor, to tell us that both are equally important. To sanctify Shabbat and remember its sanctity, and to make sure that we do not transgress any of those things that are forbidden to do on Shabbat. There's another difference between the two sets of the Ten Commandments, one in Yitro and one in Vaetchanan. In Yitro it tells us, observe the Shabbat because Hashem created the world in 6 days, just like work on 6 days, but on Shabbat you rest. And that's why the Shabbat, you're going to rest on Shabbat, just like Hashem rested from creating the world on Shabbat. In Vaetchanan it says you observe Shabbat, and the reason is because Hashem, you were slaves in Egypt, and Hashem took you out from Egypt. What is the connection between the Exodus from Egypt and the observing of Shabbat? He says, remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Hashem took you out from there. That's why Hashem commanded you to observe the Shabbat. Well, in the first mention, Hashem worked for 6 days, or created for 6 days, he rested, so we rest also. But what is because Hashem took you out from Egypt? So there are a number of explanations, but one of them that is brought by our sages is the great miracles that happened in the Exodus from Egypt. And specifically the 10 plagues were all proofs that Hashem is in control of the world, not just at the creation of the world, but continues to be involved in every aspect of every day. And Hashem changed the laws of nature with the 10 plagues, the Exodus from Egypt, with all the miracles that happened. And that was a proof that Hashem not only created the world, but continues to rule and be involved in running the world after the creation. And therefore both are connected. So we don't think that it's just Hashem created the world, put it on automatic pilot, but rather that he continues to be involved, just like he was involved in Egypt, in all the great miracles, and not just then, but every day of our lives. Everything that happens in nature is because Hashem makes it happen. day after day after day. Like it says, "Bechadesh bechol yom tamid maaseh bereshit." Hashem renews every day what took place at the creation of the world, and that's why it's mentioned in Parashat Vaetchanan. Just remember how He took you out from Egypt. Hashem created the world, and Hashem continues to create the world, day after day, to be involved in running and managing the world, so to speak. So these two aspects are actually interrelated, even though they seem to be different wording. They carry the related and definitely a concept that is in harmony one with the other. And that's one of the 10 commandments that we spoke about today, and that will be in the parasha of this week that we'll read the Shabbat. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.